Hello and welcome to our presentation of security certifications at SUSE and more. Today we are going to record about security certifications, and I give you some introduction into high impact vulnerabilities. My name is Knut Repte. I'm the Senior Product Manager for Product Certification and Product Security. I'm with SUSE now since 2018 and responsible for security certifications and security features in SUSE Linux Enterprise Server and other products. Let me introduce you Markus Meissner, who has contributed to this presentation. He's our senior project manager on product security and part of the security team. I hand over to my colleague, Katja Royers. Okay, so what is security about? The classical triplet, you might all know, that's confidentiality, integrity, and availability. But there are other targets that gain more and more visibility and are as important as those others. For example, authenticity. It's very important that an information you give to your customer is original and that the information your customer gets is original. So it is coming from you. Then non-repudiation is it is the information that you give to your customer anyhow disputable. So is it clear that the information is authentic and is coming from you and it is the original information? And how do you prove that? Then there is accountability. So can someone can be the origin of an information be pointed back to in a way that you can prove that in court? And last but not least, anonymity. Some informations you want to hand out without a trace of its origin. And this is all these kinds of other targets we have in mind it together with these classical triplets when we design our product. So you can be sure that SUSE, as a European company, has this, let's say, more perspective towards things. Why do we do security certifications? Anybody who's running, or let's say is responsible for an entity like a company or a government office that is not his own, has to demonstrate responsibility to others. One part of that is demonstrating that risk is covered accordingly. And one opportunity is to do this on your own and describe your own measures in order to deal with these risks, or which is a little bit better, you can point to someone, to another authority that has already designed how the best approach is to deal with those risks. One of those risks is IT security, and making a Linux or any program enterprise ready for us means to give that opportunity to demonstrate anyone responsible to anyone whom he is responsible to that he has done anything to avoid or deal with IT risks. One of those opportunities to demonstrate that in a strong way is getting certified. There are many certifications out there. The strongest and most important certifications around IT security is common criteria, especially in the expression of EAL4 and flaw remediation. Another one is FIPS 140-2, now getting up to 140-3. What are these security certifications about? Common criteria is about how can I demonstrate that the product I use is secure. Common criteria is the most common security certificate. It is implemented by 2 international treaty and 1 international norm. And it basically tests, is the product secure, but also in the expression EAL4+, is the environment in which the product is produced secure enough. FIPS 140-2, now upcoming FIPS 140-3, is about crypto algorithms and cryptographic modules. So in the terms of FIPS, a cryptographic module is a device together with algorithms that provide encryption. What does FIPS check? It checks if the device, or in our terms, a logical device, cryptographic module, is truly encrypting and it is handling errors and any interaction with it as expected. So the third important certification track is not a real certification. It's more or less a government program that at itself creates a hardening guide. It's called STIC. It's a full government-sponsored program by the DISA, so by the DoD, Department of Defense of the United States of America. And it's basically giving a step-by-step guide how to take measures that make a pre-configured system secure. So it's about configuration. Where do those security certifications play a role? So common criteria you will find in almost any vertical. It is government, aerospace, telco, any kind of industrial computing around edge IoT, and healthcare, especially if the target audience or the target market is governments and military backgrounds. FIPS 140-2 plays a role in government, especially United States and Canada, but also in telco and any kind of other business like healthcare and IoT that do business with United States or Canada government. Another one is STIC. STIC plays a role in especially government United States, but it also plays a role therefore in aerospace, in any kind of industry up to healthcare that provides services to the United States of America, especially also the military part of that. What is our certification roadmap in these terms? For SLE 12, we are contemporarily evaluating cryptographic modules for SLE 15 SP5, and deviated from that the kernel also again for SLE 12 SP4. With SSH, we will go undertake certifications for SP5 and make these cryptographic modules also usable in SLE 12 SP4. For SLE 15, we're certifying on a special request of a partner SLE 15 SP0, or as we call it, general GA for general availability. It's also we planned, well, let's say we are also doing a certification for SLE 15 SP2 in FIPS. And we are currently doing a certification for common criteria in the expression of EAL4, and in the United States, NIST, no, DISA protection profile 4.2.1. We're also considering to do recertifications for SP4. You might recognize that with SLE 15, we are following a TikTok scheme, since we have major kernel updates in every even service pack. In every odd service pack, we will support the usage of the cryptographic modules of the service pack before. Since in every even service pack, a new kernel update is mandatory, we are forced to do a certification, at least for the kernel module, but we will also do recertifications there for the rest of the canon of cryptographic modules we support. In the service packs in between, you can use the cryptographic modules of the service pack before, and this is supported. When it comes to STIC, we have come pretty far since last year. The STIC is a fully government-sponsored program. STICs are step-by-step guides that are produced in an XML format and can be displayed with a special compliance audit tool provided by the DISA. You can download that tool and the respective STIC guides from a homepage of the DoD, which is mandatory and necessary to keep the chain of trust. The DISA also provides for the STICs a program that is called Vendor STIC, which allows vendors like SUSE to collaborate together with the DISA to provide these STIC guides. There's also an automated version of this auditing, which is classically or a subset of those manually to be checked rules provided in the STIG. It is called STIG benchmark, and it's an automation of a subset of those rules to be checked. STIG is available now for SLE 12, and a STIG benchmark is also available for SLE 12. And there's also a STIG now available for SLE 15, and we expect anytime soon that a STIG benchmark is released by the DISA for SLE 15. We do not have a true way of influencing this because the DoD sponsors this program, and the emission of a STIG benchmark is triggered by internal processes inside the Department of Defense. Let me talk about common criteria. Common criteria is a framework that describes how a security certification of security relevant IT products could be done. It is implemented by the international norm 15408. It's also implemented by two international treaties. One of them is the CCRA, which is the international treaty covering spanning over the whole globe. The second one is the SOGIS MRA. The SOGIS is a pan-European initiative. In 2016, some kind of schisma happened inside the way general purpose operating systems are certified by common criteria. Previously to that, the whole world were certifying in the EAL scheme, which means the evaluation assurance level scheme. An evaluation assurance level is basically the depth, how deep is the evaluator looking into the process of producing a product, and is also certifying when it comes to evaluation assurance level 4, the process, how a product is secured. You also have the opportunity to go for additional modules. In our case, we do so, and this is the flaw remediation module. Flaw remediation is common criteria speak and stands for the process we provide security updates, since security is a state in time, and any complex product like software is never to be expected fully free of flaws, and over time you need to issue security updates that mitigate these vulnerabilities. In 2016, a big international operating system vendor influenced the NIAP to go away from the EAL scheme to a more, as they wish to desire, comparable scheme where they have a predefined security target for this common criteria certification process. Before, it has perfectly made sense that a security target is designed in collaboration with the referring operating system vendor, dealing with the specific security features necessary for this philosophy behind that product. Now, in coming up with this OSPP 4.2.1, which is the latest state of this predefined security target, there is only a certificate issued that certifies strict compliance with that security target. In the scheme of evaluation assurance level, this would be referenced to level 1, so that's the lowest level of security. And classically, also this predefined OSPP scheme does not look into any procedures or facilities or the environment in which the product is produced. So there's a difference between those. At SUSE, we have taken a close look, and since the NIAP OSPP is mandatory for US government, we're forced and pleased to do so. So we will do both certifications in the flavors of the NIAP OSPP as well as the classical EAL4 certification scheme, including the in-depth inspection of our processes and facilities and physical environment in which we produce SLAS. If you compare over a couple of important operating system vendors, how they engage, you will see that there's a trend away from the NIAP, from the classical EAL4 evaluation scheme, and very soon only SUSE will be one of the remaining operating system vendors that provide a security inspection of its products and services and physical environment up to level 4. SLE 12, the certification is not any longer valid, but we are expecting to get certified for SLE 15 again pretty soon this year. So let me hand over to Katja Rojas, who might explain you the current state of our certification projects.
Thank you, Knut. Yes, so let's go with common criteria. So the schedule of common criteria, as you can see in the timeline, we are estimating to receive the EL4 Plus certification around July of this year. So we are pretty close to get a certificate in hand. And for the NIAP PPOS of common criteria, our estimations are according to October, November of this year as well. As you can see in the timeline, this is big project to be developed, and it takes more than 2 years to be done. So let's go to the next slide, please, so we can go a bit more into detail of this process. So how do we start common criteria ER4 plus project? So we start with a kickoff meeting where we sit together with our lab, our lab that help us during this process, and we decide what we want to certify, which are the requirements that needs to be comply, and draft a project plan to start with the project. So the next phase will be security target. So in here we define what we want to certify and which processes, policies, procedures we are going to also certify. And the next step is implementation. So during the implementation, if they're according to the requirements, the standard of common criteria, there are some features that needs to be implemented, or code changes that needs to be implemented. This is the phase where all our engineering team start working in this product that we want to certify, and including these code changes and features. At the end of the implementation, we run a test. So we test all this implementation and see if we comply with these standards, and prepare a plan, a testing plan, and also test cases that we share with our lab. So the evaluators will start doing the testing on their side and review that all the criteria have been met, and the next step will be the evaluation. So the evaluation, it's running during the first day of the project. So they will be evaluating and creating reports about our policies, procedures, and processes, and they will hand these reports to BSI, who is the certifier. So after the evaluation will finish with the ETR, that is the final report, that is in the end the one that includes different small reports about all these processes, procedures, and policies. After this is submitted, and then we will get a period of time where the certifier BSI will analyze all this information, and then they will grant a certification. So right now we are expecting to submit this final ETR during the month of May and get the certificate, as I mentioned before, at the end of July. So next slide, please. Okay, so common criteria OSPP 421 project, so NIAP. The same process is applied. So we focus first in EL4 Plus, but we are reusing all the work that we did in EL4 Plus to do the NIAP version. And we start the kickoff. Security target was defined as well. We did some implementation. Something here very relevant was the secure boot feature, and then the testing and the evaluation. So right now we are still working on this, and we are estimating we will submit this around the end of July and get the certification around the end of October. Next slide, thank you. So FIPS 140-2 4/15 SP0. So as Knut mentioned it before, we are certifying different SPs for S/15. We are doing SP0 and SP2. So let's start with SP0. we are currently certifying the modules of kernel, OpenSSL, libgcrypt, and Mozilla NSS. The process. So again, we also start with a kickoff meeting. Our lab will sit down with us and analyze which modules do we want to certify and which are these standard requirements that apply from NIST standards. So after defining this, we will pass to the next step, that is the development. So the code validation, we here have the code review, code review, where our engineers will work on these modules to comply with the requirements that are assigned for NIST. So right now we are working with NIST 140-2, and we have some projects to do with 140-3. But for now, for 15SP0, is 140-2. So next step will be algorithm validation. So the algorithm validation, after this validation process, we will get a certificate, but this is not the final certificate. It's only the certificates that applies to this algorithm. So after this, we will start with the module testing. In the module testing, we do this functional testing of the modules that we are certifying, and if everything goes okay, the lab will submit all this work finally to NIST, and in NIST we will have to start a process of validation, module validation process in NIST. So this module validation process takes up to 12 months right now, and it describes, they take some phases to go through all the work that we submitted, to review, to make comments to the lab. The lab will make comments back and reply and provide all the information that they need. And finally, after these 12 months, if everything goes as expected, we will receive the certificates. So right now, we already received the certificate for the modules of kernel, OpenSSL, and libgcrypt, and we are waiting for Mozilla NSS. So we are estimating that this last certificate will arrive around the end of May. Thanks. So the next one is 15SP2. The same process applies for all these certifications of modules. We are certifying right now for 15SP2 kernel, OpenSSL, libgcrypt, GNU-TLS, and Libica. And NSS is going to be done via 15SP0. So right now, all these modules are in coordination phase. So we are in this part of the process of the module validation process in NIST, where NIST will make some comments, and the laboratory that is working with us are going to reply and answer to those comments. And after this, if everything goes as expected, they will provide a certificate. So we are estimating that these certificates, all of them, will arrive at around October of this year as well. Next, please. Yes, thank you. So, and the last certificates we are doing for FIPS 140-2 is 12SP4 and 12SP5. Same process applies again. And right now we are working to get the certificate on November this year. So one point here is that we will submit 12SP4 kernel during the coordination phase of 12SP5, and we are certifying for 12SP5, OpenSSL, and kernel. Thank you. Then I will pass back to Knut.
Yes, so let me take the opportunity to tell something about the high impact vulnerability process we have at SUSE, since this is one of those security relevant processes that we can grant to our customers that is very relevant. And by the way, the security, the high impact vulnerability process, as we call it, is also part of the common criteria certification. So it is subject to that certification and evaluation, and it has been inspected during the certification round this year for common criteria, EAL 4 plus version. So what are the benefits we can grant to you as our customer? We are part of many international communities around open source, but also around hardware vendors and other organizations that grant us early access to very privileged information about security flaws. We might know about security flaws much earlier than the market, and I will show you later why this is your advantage. We also have active collaborations with the whole kernel developers community around the globe around Linux, with a couple of CPU manufacturers that contribute, of course, knowledge to this, and the whole open source community. We are well networked, and we have established very enlightening levels of communication out to many of these groups out there. We have an immense in-house expertise on a lot of these subjects, since we provide since we have in-house a lot of development groups that care around an immense number of security relevant topics. And last but not least, and then our process is subject to evaluation in this common criteria process. So it's not only us having an eye on our processes and ways of communication, it's also state authorities that have a close look on how we deal with these informations, and if our processes are capable of providing the necessary level of security. So we are happy that in the past we have been very much in time with providing security updates and quality information around these security flaws that helps you as a customer deal with a situation that occurs when a security threat is discovered. Security, this high level or privileged information, we need to keep very, very secret. Why? If the world gets to know about security flaws before there is a mitigation to cope with it, then the bad guys out there are in an advantage. And the security risk or the risk of leaking of information is growing in square with the participating entities. The entities can be human entities, so people, and it could be also technical entities, and each like communication devices, and each one of those entities increases the number of necessary communication steps with all the other entities by a large number. So it is necessary to keep this undisclosed information very, very restrict. And we restrict them in most cases by the need to know principle. So only people in our organization that are necessary to know, that need to know this information in order to provide a remediation for the security flaw are informed. And as you can see, the normal process is that some finder finds a security flaw, hands it over to a reporter, or he might be one person, and reports it to the referring vendor that is responsible for the security flaw, in terms of he is the creator of that product. And most time this creator gets the coordinator and starts coordinating this responsible disclosure process, where the additional parties are informed also just on a strict need to know basis. So we handle this need to know between those entities, but also inside the entities. And we try to keep it as secret and the number of people involved as limited as possible until the coordinated release date, which is normally set by the coordinator, sometimes in interaction with a finder, is met. And so we try to keep it as secret as possible before this date. And afterwards, we try to be as fast and as widely spread with information to the public so that everybody knows about it and how to deal with it as possible. So the information secured, or let's say the information handling is optimized towards this very crucial coordinated release date. And we try to keep information as secure as possible before this date and be as open as possible after this coordinated release date in order to treat the information in a way that our customers are most secure. Let me bring up this slide. It is a redesign of a slide published by the German BSI, which is the German certification body for common criteria and also the highest authority for computer security inside Germany. And they have compared the threat level over time between a coordinated disclosure process and a full disclosure process. And you might see that in a coordinated security or a coordinated disclosure process, it is never getting as high as in a full disclosure process, because in a full disclosure process, when the information gets public, in most times the bad guys you want to avoid to have this knowledge have a time advantage before those guys like us that provide security patches. So there's a couple of pros. So our and the market, it's best practice to view it that the pro arguments are dominant over the contra arguments in this process. So we have decided to strictly comply with these processes and be a responsible player in these processes to provide maximum security to our customers, but not only our customers, because it might be that information that is part of this disclosure process might not only affect our customers. So thank you very much for your time and attending our session at the SUSECON. Wish you lots of interesting experiences and insights on our SUSECON, and see you soon next. Bye-bye.